Our club's always been a forum for visionaries, public figures, and decision makers to command attention to the issues of our time and inform the most relevant, compelling, and challenging conversations. Here we offer first-person access to dynamic political, business, and public personality.
The Canadian Club is one of the most important podiums anywhere in the world that a Canadian can speak to, tell Canadians what it is that they think, develop those thoughts. And so I want to thank you for that very, very much.
Please join me in thanking our esteemed panelists today.
Through our programs and events, including our youth and young leaders programs, our diversity partnerships, our joint events, and our media and social media opportunities, we offer you access to dynamic political, social, and business figures from abroad and right here at home.
The platform from which the eloquence of Canada has flowed all of that time, whether it be business, education, politics, sports, arts, and culture. If someone wants to say something to Canadians about this country and about the future of this country, this is the venue you choose.
Good afternoon again, everybody. My name is Glenn Parkinson, Canadian Club Toronto President and your host this afternoon. A special welcome to those of us joining online on canadianclub.org. Thank you for spending some of your afternoon with us. We'll get underway in just 2 minutes, but I wanted to acknowledge some of our partners that help make this event possible. Today, our sponsor is EY. Thank you for your generous support. We'd also like to thank Canadian Bankers Association, our season sponsor, and Air Canada, our official airline partner for the year. Also, our entire season is carbon neutral thanks to our partnership with Canada's Forest Trust. Together, we're not only compensating for the carbon footprint of today's event, but also planting a forest for future generations. So thank you, Canada's Forest Trust, for planting a forest and preserving it in our honor. Canadian Club Toronto regularly hosts young leaders and students from across the GTA, and today we're fortunate to have a table from Toronto Metropolitan University with us. If you could stand and be recognized, we'd love to thank you for joining. And one great feature of having TMU students here in particular is they ask a lot of questions, and we want our events to be interactive, so please use the question cards on your tables if you have a question for the President and CEO of Desjardins, and hold them up during the talk and we will run them up to the moderator. Similarly, for those of you online, there's a button on the right-hand side that says click to submit a question, so please use that and we'll bring it up to the front and include it in the discussion. And now I'm pleased to invite Linda Williams, Managing Partner, Clients, Markets and Growth from EY, to introduce our guest speaker. Linda.
Hello, everyone. Bonjour tout le monde. EY is very happy to be supporting another Canadian Club event, and we're actually very proud to sponsor today's purposeful discussion with Guy Cormier and Stephanie Marotta from the Globe and Mail. Guy is the president and CEO of the Desjardins Group, the leading cooperative financial group in North America, and the 5th largest in the world, with over $414 billion in assets and 7.5 million members and clients. Guy's journey with Desjardins started 30 years ago with various positions until he joined the executive management team as an executive vice president of retail and distribution in 2012. Guy has led Desjardins with a growth strategy since he was elected as president and CEO in 2016, making the group a household name from coast to coast by showcasing the organization's cooperative nature, community involvement, financial stability, and the scope of its operations. He serves on the board of directors of HEC Montréal, where he earned an undergraduate and MBA and taught finance for many years. He's also on the board of the Fondation Force Avenir and the Conference Board of Canada. In 2016, he was named a Knight of the French Legion of Honor, and in 2022, he was awarded an honorary doctorate of law by the John Molson School of Business at Concordia University. As a champion of the cooperative model, shared prosperity, our young people, as well as a greener, more inclusive economy, Guy Cormier makes decisions that are based on the common good. He created the $250 million Good Spark Fund, used by Desjardins to support community building initiatives across Quebec and Ontario. Keen to provide our young people with a forum where they can discuss major issues facing our society, he established an advisory board made up of youth of ages 18 to 35. And I believe he just finished a cross-country tour. Guy is committed to social issues, including sustainable development, responsible finance, and is focused on bringing our forces together across public and private sectors to find solutions to climate change, as well as other challenges like housing. He supports rethinking our current economic model in favor of more collaborative approach focused on long-term sustainability. He's a proponent of shared prosperity, the circular economy, and accelerating the transition to a low-carbon economy. So with that, I am thrilled to welcome our longtime colleague and Guy Cormier and Stephanie to discuss the future of Canadian businesses and the role we can play in creating a better society, stronger local economies, and a more secure future.
This is for you.
Thank you so much. So kind. Hello, everyone. Bonjour tout le monde. C'est un plaisir d'être ici.
Oh my God, in French also. Wow.
Right? Surprise. I think that's as far as I'm going to get, unfortunately. But it's an absolute pleasure to be here. I'm Stephanie Marotta, the banking reporter at the Globe and Mail, so you can imagine how thrilled I am to be speaking with Guy today. Now, before we get started, just again, some housekeeping. Do not let me hog all the airtime because I will. So please take advantage of the cards that are on your tables to submit some questions. We're really excited to have this conversation, but we would love for you to take part in the discussion as well. And with that said, let's kick it off because, like I said, I have a lot of questions.
Merci. Bonjour tout le monde. Très content d'être ici aujourd'hui. It's a real pleasure for me to be here and leaving the snowstorm in Montreal and being with us. Without snow, it's good.
We have a really interesting topic today, stakeholder capitalism. And it's a theme and a theory that's gotten a lot more attention over the years, especially since the World Economic Forum made it its main focus at Davos in 2020. So let's bring this closer to home. What is your view on stakeholder capitalism, and why have you spent so much time implementing this concept?
Well, I spent time before the pandemic because I'm totally convinced that the last 30, 40 years of capitalism has brought amazing thing. Many billions of people out of poverty around the world, technology, innovation, so was really positive. But I think by 2015, 2016, we started to have a discussion about the collateral damage of capitalism. Rising inequalities, pollution, climate change, people left out of. So for me, as the new CEO of a cooperative that has been engaged in society for a century now, it was quite just normal to be an advocate of more sustainable and growth and shared prosperity. And I really feel that with the pandemic now, we have this. It's amazing that this decade, only after 3 years, we have seen so much more compared to the last decade, honestly. Not meaning that the last decade was quite easy year after year, but we have seen a pandemic, inflation, recession, huge climate change. So I think it's more important than ever to continue this discussion. And I'm a bit scared now that because of this, we can't use the word ESG no more, greenwashing, blah, blah, blah. I feel that I must, in my role, continue to be as proactive as much as I can with the privilege that I have to be the CEO, to try to bring people to really always implement and be sure that they integrate all these criteria in their decisions.
So I'd like to come back to what you said at the end there about ESG criteria, but first I want to pick up on what you said at the outset about collateral damage. Yeah. And we hear a lot about the concept of putting people over profits. Mm-hmm. So maybe you could walk us through how things could look different from the way that they're being done now.
Well, for us at Desjardins, there's two key principles that are really, really important in our decisions, in our initiatives, in our strategies. And we still have to be better, by the way. We're not perfect, and we have to do better. But we really integrate, and I have some colleagues from Desjardins that will say yes to what I just will say. But the first principle is trying to always have in mind, always do what is best for our members and our clients. And it's not just something like that on the wall. It's really thinking of, for our members, for our clients, as a cooperative, for them, what's meaningful. What's in our decisions as a positive impact for them. And the second aspect is what's in the best interest of future generations. And I think it's this one that we missed in the last 30, 40 years. What's in the best interest of future generations? And that's where we try to really tackle all of our decisions and our strategies with that in the mindset. When we decided that we will keep our call center here in Canada, and we won't transfer them in other countries, it's because we think it's in the best interest of our members and our clients and the people here. So there are many examples like that where I really feel that what we have trying to do for the last 8 years is really to have in mind what's in the best interest of future generation, not only what is the best interest of the next quarter. And that's something that is really embedded in our culture.
And that reminds me of an op-ed that you did a few years ago, where you said that capitalism is due for a redo or a do-over. And that's a very provocative thing to say. I kind of wish you had said it to me, but maybe next time. But I wanted to ask you about that.
Well, the thing is that we honestly, if we don't redo capitalism, there will be people in the street. There will be people in the street. There are younger generations right now who are working for our companies, who are looking at us and expect us to manage differently our companies. They're choosing our companies depending of the way we manage it or the decisions we take. So it's not only a question of climate change, which should be the #1 aspect of, it's also a way of fighting labor shortage, trying to be attractive, trying to bring a purpose in the mindset of our people. So on the long run, it's a question of innovation, labor shortage, culture, and at the end of the day, we will see maybe so much more people against companies and institutions if they don't feel that we are as connected to profit than we are as connected to community and to people. And that's where you will see more people that will be cynical against governments, against institutions, against corporation, because they will feel that we're not taking care of their interests and taking care of them. And it can bring on the table, well, other aspects of social issues. That's where I think we have to be careful of.
So I'd like to dive into Desjardins' role in all of this. And Linda outlined some of the community programs that you've launched over the years. Yep. So when we look at the whole street that's behind us, at that row of companies, everyone will say we have extensive sponsorship programs and community giving programs. How does what Desjardins does differ from the rest of its counterparts?
Well, it is sure that what we're doing is sometime, and most of the time, quite as what we can see in other corporations. Donations, grants, sponsorships, involvement. But there is some aspect that are totally different. Like I told you, we decided to keep our call center in Canada, maybe in Quebec and Toronto. It's more expensive. We're leaving money on the table compared to what we could have around the world. But for us, it's a way to keep jobs in our communities and be involved in our communities. We still have in Quebec and Ontario more than 700 branches, 1,600 ATM machines. People will look at me and say, why do you still have 7 700 branches. In some regions where you already have 60% market shares. Everyone is doing business with their ATMs now and with their phone. Because for us, we are in this transition of being engaged in the communities and being really careful leaving too early, because we know that we have some seniors and some people that need our help and our support. And there are some small towns that if we leave the table, it will be more difficult for them to continue to be attractive or to continue to grow. Maybe I would make $2.1 billion or $2.2 billion of net profit instead of 2.1 or 2 billions. But at the end of the day, this extra $100 million. And I think what's the difference for us is the fact that when I look at the last 40 years, the concept of capitalism was to create values, optimize everything, create values, and at the end, I'll pay taxes. And the governments, with my taxes, will take care of the social issues. That was kind of the deal in the last 40 years. What we are trying to do at Desjardins is, yes, we pay taxes, by the way, but during the old process of creating values, trying to have in mind which impact can we have in communities and on people, with our suppliers that are mainly from Canada, with the people we're working with the decisions we take. During the old process of creating value, not only net profit, trying to have in mind all these other perspectives of long-term perspective, compared to short-term perspective, what's in the best interest of future generations, what's in the best interest of our people, our employees, our members. During the old process, even though it's not the most efficient, profitable decision, we understand that we leave money on the table, maybe, but it's part of our engagement. So I think it's the main difference compared to other corporations. When we decide to install in Quebec and Ontario nearly 500 electrical charging stations that we did by ourselves in our case network, it wasn't to make money. It was to be engaged in this fight against climate change and try to bring an electrical charging station in an area where no one will thought of, but at least it's part of trying to build something. So I think it's not only donations and sponsorships, it's along the way when you manage the organization, and also in specific decisions that we take where we feel that it's the one that we should take for the future.
Well, first, thank you for bringing up bank taxes. I'm going to come back to that. Yeah. So thank you for the opening. But I'd like to dive into the branch piece a little bit first. Something that Guy and I share is we both started our careers as bank tellers. Yeah. We deposited a lot of checks. So you illustrated the importance of that community presence and being in those local areas where you want to operate. But do you have some examples of some opportunities that you might have missed out on had you not had that presence?
Well, is there really opportunities that we missed because we didn't have this presence in some communities? I don't necessarily think so, because, we have some regions that we have 60, 70% market shares that we are really engaged and involved. If you go in Quebec, mainly, you will see all arenas and all activities in different communities that there's always a Desjardins logo. So I really feel that because of our presence, because of who we are, people want to stay connected with us and do business with us. Is there some moments that we missed something? I think there's maybe one aspect is the fact that people are really expecting us to continue to be a leader regarding climate change. And for some of them, they want us to, leave the table with some organizations, fossil fuels. They want us to really be more aggressive and proactive in the way we bank by not doing business with some companies and entities. But at the same time, we put ourselves in a mindset of a just transition, where we understand that we're moving from one part to another. So some of our stakeholders would love us to go faster and quicker in the the green energy transition. but we put ourselves also in a mindset of trying to accompany our companies and entities really proactively and with this long-term perspective. So it's always a question of pace. So there's this area where I feel it's one of my biggest challenge. For some people, I don't go as far as I should, and for some others, I go too fast. So that's where I'm struggling sometimes.
So on the issue of that, around mandatory ESG criteria and disclosures, where do you fall on that debate?
I think this decade is a decade that will be a game changer around the globe. I think we entered this decade without having necessarily specific KPI, a bit of everyone is very good, but we don't audit everything. We will leave this decade with EY that will sign our financial statement with numbers and with ESG criteria. And I think that will be a huge change because now we are on a trust challenge right now. People are trusting, but not too sure that they should trust corporations because we don't know for some aspect, we're not too sure. Is it real? Is it true? Everyone is winning awards now from different, I don't know what. So I understand the citizens to be like a bit chilly, a bit not too sure of. Now bringing, like we have in Montreal, in Canada, the ASB, the International Sustainability Standard Board, here in Montreal, in Canada, that will provide new rules that will really bring on the table more transparency, a same taxonomy, and a big four that will sign, what Desjardins just said, I audited and it's right. So it will be more a same level playing field for everyone. And I think people will feel that, okay, when Desjardins is saying that, this is true. When BMO is saying that, this is true. When TD is saying that. Now, people are not too sure. So I think it will be a very, very important in this decade. And in 25 years, we will look at 2024, 2025, and we will be in a mindset of, oh, it was funny how much discussion we had about KPI and numbers and stuff. But in 2050, it will be all done, and it will be, okay, it's part of the game now. We have financial statement, and we have ESG statement, audited by companies, and now it's clean, and that's business. And if you don't have it, you won't supply. You won't be part of the business. You won't be, in the data that we want to work with and the people that we want to work with. So I think it'll be a huge challenge.
You talked about that very tricky position that you and other financial institution leaders are in, where one side of the debate wants you to move faster, the other wants you to hold off and focus on transition. Are there, in cases where a project or a financing doesn't meet your ESG requirements, have you started rejecting certain projects?
Ask them at the table there, are people from the capital market.
Let me get my recorder.
Jean-Yves Bourgeois is in charge of all our business activities. Ask him. Seriously, we have for not the SMEs yet, but the mid-market and the corporations, we have now ESG criteria that are as important as the financial statement and the financial analysis. And yes, in the last 18 to 24 months, we have we said no to many deals in many industries, not only fossil fuel, but many, many industries that we felt that we asked 3 questions to the companies. First, do you have an ESG policy? Do you have an ESG strategy? Second, is it part of your risk management? Does ESG is part of your risk management? And third, do you have KPIs? Do you have goals? If there's a yes on these 3 questions, we want to continue the discussion. But if there's a no in one of these 3 questions, sometimes we'll leave the table. We'll try to influence as much as we can. We just launched a year ago a ESG swap, a swap of interest rates, where we will sign a deal, and by the end of the swap, if the company or the corporation followed some specific KPI that we sign, in the contract, we will give you back, we'll give a cash back to this company because they achieve what they told us to achieve. Could be security, employee securities, could be the impact on the environment, pollution. I don't know what kind of ESG criteria, but it's embedded in the contract, and we will give a cash back at the end of the 5-year or 3-year term. So for us, that's a way to try to influence companies to integrate these ESG criteria. And if they don't achieve it after 3 years, 4 years, these companies, they won't receive a cash back from Desjardins, but they will have to pay or let's say just give a grant or donation to an NGO, ESG NGO in their community. And it's by law in the contract. So the first thing that we'll try to do is to stay around the table and influence as much as we can. But there's many companies that these guys said, no, we passed. And these companies find they find their financing somewhere else. But for us, we already have around $150 billion of our assets that are under an ESG, let's say, criteria analysis on the $400 billion. So we're heading to $400 billion. But we started with the corporations, the mid-market, and now we're heading with the SMEs. And that's where I'm scared with the SMEs. Because if you go in Europe now with Scope 3, and they're asking many SMEs to look at their activities and their carbon footprint, many SMEs are looking at them like, what are you talking about? What are you asking me to do now? Now you don't want to lend money to me because I don't even know what's my carbon footprint as an SME. And we're a country of SMEs. So that's where I'm scared in the next 5, 10 years. How we follow and help our SMEs. Because big corporations will say, we don't want you in our supply chain because of. So we have to help our SMEs.
I'm sure you can't talk about specific clients, but what types of projects have you declined in the last 2 years?
Mining, casino, thermal coal, fossil fuels. There's not one specific company, but there's not one industry that we're out. It depends of the management, it depends of the strategies, it depends of the way they are as serious as we think about their transition. And we don't leave them and we don't say no the first day. We're trying to influence, we're trying to explain to them, we're trying to say, look at this competitor, he's doing it, why don't you introduce that? You understand that the puck is heading there. It will be like that in 2040. Why don't you start now? And we want to help. And we can put you in touch with some partners that will help. But at the end, there's some tough discussion. I think we have around 150 meetings per year with boards, management committee, board of directors. And we're trying to influence them as much as we can to really integrate these criteria. But at the end, if they don't, we leave the table. But that's not what we want. That's not what we want, because we want to be part of the transition. We want to help them as much as we can.
I'm also going to take that as an invitation to interview all of you guys. So
yeah.
Us will be coming in. We'll switch over to some audience questions. Thank you for submitting these. The first one, you mentioned that Desjardins is now considering what's best for future generations. Can you outline what tangible steps, practices, and procedures this looks like and the expected outcomes? The
first thing I did when I was elected in 2016, Desjardins Chairman and CEO, is I launched a youth advisory board of 12 people that are under 35. 4 employees, 4 members, and 4 board directors in our case network. And I told them that I want to present you the same files and the same projects that I bring at the management committee and the board of directors. And actually, I want you to come to the board of directors. The younger one didn't want, and my board didn't want to. Are you serious, Guy? You want to bring young people of 28, 29 years old to the board? Oh, come on, Guy, let's be serious here. We run Desjardins. So what I did at the first time is I was bringing the same files. Jean-Yves will bring the same file to the management committee or to the board of directors. And we brought the same file to the younger one. And they were so shy at the beginning that we were just taping them with our cell phone. And we brought the same file to the board. And we asked them, what do you want to do with this? Oh, we shouldn't do that, blah, 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 blah. Okay, let's see what the younger one wants. After 2 meetings, they asked to bring the younger one. Because it was real. So the first thing is really put young people in the art of the decisions. And it's tough sometimes, but it pushed my board and my management committee to have in mind so many different perspectives regarding climate change, regarding diversity, regarding long-term perspective. So that's something, and it's still working after 8 years. And each 3 years we change the younger one on this committee because they're too close to Desjardins. They're too close to Desjardins. They have no more this gap. And I try to meet them regularly 2-3 times per year, just an evening, and talk to me and explain to me what you see in the future. So I think the first thing is to really be totally engaged, true in that, transparent, and personally get involved in listening to the younger one. So that's one big difference. The second thing is, like I told you before, regarding how we try to keep communities really engaged and in a growing perspective by still leaving some branches in these communities. This is one of my other biggest challenge, to really try to balance the past of Desjardins after 123 years and try to build a Desjardins in the future. And there's always someone telling me that Alphonse Desjardins is probably rolling in his grave because I'm not as I should be. Like, yeah, but keeping in mind our past, but trying to put Desjardins in the future. So that's why keeping some branches in some regions that are, for many competitors or for many other people outside Desjardins, will look at that and say, why are you doing that? You know, we're really involved now in circular economy. We gave a donation of $2.1 billion to a university engineering university in Montreal. Try to see if we can contribute to more circular economy, about reducing friendshoring, bringing back some more activities in some regions in Quebec and Ontario. So we're not making money with that. We're just trying to build something that could be really positive for our SMEs and companies in the future.
I think that's a great segue into our next audience question. And it is, you've brought youth to the table. Mm-hmm. You listen, and I have no doubt that you also learn. But how do you bring what you learn to the executive table and to Desjardins' strategy?
Well, I bring the young one at the table. That's the thing. I bring each year we have an annual strategic get-together with the management committee and the board. And each year there is 3 to 4, Jean-Yves, is it true? There's 3 to 4 young ones in the meeting. And I remember very well having a meeting where one of the executive vice president brought on the table something regarding financial literacy, financial education on your cell phone with a game and something really interesting. And I had people at my board, 55, I'm 54, okay, so 55, 60, 65. It's not old, but sometimes it's not young too. So so they told me, no, we don't go there. We don't go there. We don't go there because there's privacy and no gaming, and we don't want to go in this. We're a financial institution. And there's one kid that got up and said, you know what? That's for me financial literacy now. That's for me financial education. Do you really think I'm going to understand savings, interest rates, compound interest rates, budgeting, everything by reading documentation? No. I'm going to learn on my cell phone. That's how I learn in life now, on YouTube and everything. And the board said, okay, let's go with that. And we invested millions and millions of dollars to develop a new platform, gaming platform, that is actually on Apple Store, called Alea in French. Alea, A-L-E-A, is the 9th largest download gaming financial literacy, whatever you want, in Canada. But if this young one is not at the table in this meeting, there's no gaming financial education thing at Desjardins. So that's a real example of what they change. I can have also another example about the transition. The young ones are helping me so much about finding the right stance about climate change transition and energy transition, because they are the ones who are telling me what they expect, but they are also very pragmatical about the fact that, okay, we understand that we can't change everything in a weekend. So it's really helped me personally as a CEO.
Switching to this audience question, I think someone might have seen my notes because I'm going to wrap some context around this one that I've been meaning to ask. The question is, do you think the federal government is being fair to banks? What solutions would you like to see them enact? And what I would add to that is, over the last year, we've seen a lot of really interesting federal policies come out. The government has introduced several new taxes on banks. A couple months ago, the finance minister came out and said that she expects banks to eliminate non-sufficient funds fees, to provide low or no-cost banking accounts. So from that stakeholder capitalist view, how do you view those new
This
provisions?
is a very good question. I'm always careful, and I'm not a politician, I'm not doing politics, but I'm always careful by maybe trying to bring an industry that is a bad industry. You know, when we, when the pandemic arrived, I think the government asked us to be as open and as proactive as we can with many, many clients about taking care of. If you can't repay your loan, you're in the real estate, you're in the your restaurant, you are, I don't know what. We have been very careful to help as many companies and Canadians that we can during the pandemic, because we thought it was our role, not even only Desjardins, but many of our competitors. So, and I think the reward was to receive an extra tax after, because we are supposedly a financial institution that's making so much money, and we are an industry that's making so much money. But at the end of the day, I think we have to look at our industry not only as corporations that wants to make money, but we are facilitators about people who have money and people who need money. And we are, and that's why you see in 2008, that's why you see the US has been, and in Europe too, very, very keen to help this industry, because we understand very well that if you don't have a financial sector that is viable, that is strong, well, it's your own economy that is under pressure. So honestly, I applaud when I see the government who is trying to helping every one of us to behave and to act in a long-term perspective, in a people, mindset to help. That's shared prosperity. But when we are shifting to a message that is, we are a bad industry, we're making too much money, and we're not this, that's where sometimes I'm like, I'm not there yet.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, then you currently oppose the measures that the government has
Well,
implemented.
no, I'm not opposing it. I'm not opposing it. When I look at the mortgages, with the renewals that are on the way now, that we should call the people, for 4 to 6 months before. We should find solutions regarding amortizations. When the CMHC 3-5 years ago said, you know what, we will look at some people who want to lend money, instead of trying to analyze it with the rates of 2-3%, try to analyze it at 5-6% in case of, that was very good decisions that they took, because now we are in a situation where, thanks to these kind of analysis that we did 3 years ago, now people are maybe more able to go through because we took the time to do that. So there is some that are really okay, and I'm not opposing it to all of these decisions that they're taking, honestly. What I'm a bit sometimes not too sure of is by bringing these new rules, it's this kind of message that we're a bad industry, we're making too much money, and that's where I feel like I'm not sure that we're there. I'm sure that this is good to bring that. We're evolving, but we're trying to be as close as we can to our people. But we're making $2 billion, $2.1 billion of net profit, and we're reinvesting it in the economy, in the communities, we're paying taxes, And we are facilitating so many activities in many industries. So that's where I stand. So I'm not in opposition of what they present, but sometimes when I feel that, not recognition, but just who we are as an industry, we just have to be careful.
I'd like to switch this to a topic that I've been dying to ask you about since I took on this role a year ago.
So I don't think it's a question from the crowd here. Eh?
Nope, not this one. So I want to ask you about pay ratio disclosures.
Yeah.
And Desjardins has disclosed the ratio of its average employee compensation to that of its CEOs since 2012, I believe. And the UK and the US have all implemented mandatory pay ratio disclosures for publicly traded companies. And here in Canada, every year, shareholder activist groups will come to the bank's annual general meetings, shareholder groups like MEDAC, and will propose that the banks here also implement pay ratio disclosures. And every year, the banks recommend that shareholders vote against that motion, and they're ultimately defeated. So as a financial institution that does have that policy in place, why is Canada and the financial industry here so resistant to implementing that?
That's a good question. Honestly, that's a good question. And I don't run the other financial institution. I don't know why. I don't know what they're scared of. Or I can tell you what we did at Desjardins. You know, since 2012, we said yes to this disclosure. We compared ourselves, as my salary is compared not only to the banks in Canada, is compared to the cooperative around the globe, mainly in Europe. The 5 top ranked, executive vice president, actually just in 2022 was around $12 million. You know, it's the salary of one CEO in Canada in a bank. You know, so I can't comment why they don't want to do that, or maybe we can have all our own opinion. What I can tell you is at Desjardins, our compensations are compared to many, many credit unions and cooperative around the globe, not only the banking industry and the insurance industry. And I think we will need more and more. With the ESG will bring more and more pressure on that. And like I said, this decade is a game changer, I'm sure, regarding transparency and disclosure. And I will be really pleased to have the same questions in 2030 to see it will be the same answer. I think we are in a transition mode, and we're heading to something that will be different. And the pressure will just continue to be from the employees, from the stakeholders, from around the people around.
So I think we have time.
And that's where, and you will be pleased with my answer now. And that's where our industry, which is not perfect, really have to be careful sometimes about the way we run or manage. Because if we're not, we're so heavily regulated that someone else will take the decisions for us. So that's where we have to be careful sometimes.
So I think I have time for one more question. So I'm going to stick to the governance piece in ESG.
Yep.
And kind of along the veins of the compensation piece, but I wanted to pick up on the equity and gender equity piece of this conversation. And last year, Desjardins was ranked number 4 in North America for companies that are friendly for women to work at. And when we look at
not in America, around the world.
Oh, was it around the world?
Yeah, it's a big difference.
I misspoke.
Just by the way, around the world. I love America, but around the world.
I will run a correction. It is around the world. But it's an interesting, when I saw that, I was quite interested in it because when we look at this industry, Desjardins' last CEO, Monique Leroux, was a woman. Up until a couple of months ago, Laurentian also had a female CEO. But among the big 6 banks, we have yet to see a woman take the helm of one of the larger financial institutions. So as a financial institution that has been recognized as a great place for women to work, what's it going to take to get a woman into that seat at one of the major institutions in Canada?
Well, it's not one thing that will happen. It's so many different strategies. You know, when I became in 2016 the Desjardins president, it was clear in my mind. I had 2 female representatives on the board of directors on 24. The management committee wasn't 50-50. And you have to work it out really, really deeply in your organization to really build something that will bring results in 4, 5, 6 years. So that's where we decide to do things that are quite, we said the board of directors was people elected in the case network, and depending on in which regions they were coming from, they will automatically be on the board of directors, Desjardins board of directors. We changed totally that. And we said to the people, after 12 years, you can be no longer on the board in your cases and at the Desjardins level. So we had a huge amount of men that were president of their cases that had to, step down. And it brought a lot of fresh air with women that decided to go on. And after that, they went to the Desjardins board. Now we are at probably nine women on 19. Now we're nearly 50%. The management committee is the same, it's 50%. But it's, we set targets, we follow them each quarter. We have many programs to bring more female and to more women at the management level. Actually, 59% of the managers at Desjardins are women. So for us, so it's not a question of you have to build that. What it's going to take, it's a 5-year plan of building something in your organization. We have still, for the last 6 years, many workshops about bias, unconscious bias that people have. So it's not one thing that will change. It's many little strategies and many different initiatives. But what at Desjardins we put in place, and people understand it very well, is that we feel that we're more performant now. At the end of the day, it's not a question of gender. It's not a question of having more women on. I'm totally convinced that we are a more performant organization. And when you explain to someone that you have a tool to be more performant, most of the time they want to use this tool. And parity, gender parity is an amazing tool to be more performant in our decisions, in our strategies, in the way we manage Desjardins. So like I said, you really need to have someone else in this chair in the banking industry, but honestly, I don't know what they will do or what will achieve. But from our perspective, this is a journey that you have to build 5, 6 years before if you want different results.
I think we're going to have to leave it there. I have a million more questions for you, but we're about to get the hook off the stage. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you both, Guy and Stephanie, for such an inspiring and hopeful discussion, too. I admire your wonderful example of inclusion and long-term thinking. The practicality you've brought to the role as well with the 3 questions for the investment committee, which I thought were very practical and tangible, and you're really providing strong leadership and guidance. And I mean, I learned a lot. I'll tell you, or I'll admit that my 6-year-old self hadn't thought about Scope 3 emissions challenge for SMEs, so I was glad to hear about that too. And so thank you very much on behalf of the club for being with us, and Stephanie, a wonderful job moderating, so thank you very much, and we hope to have you back again shortly. Thank you. Now, before we close, I would just like to bring your attention to a few more of our events before the end of the year, and right after the end of the year, actually. So on Friday, December 15th, we'll have the Bank of Canada Governor Tiff Macklem here at the podium. And then our first event of the new year will be our 47th annual Outlook event, where we bring together an incredible panel to discuss challenges and opportunities across the economy, across politics, and the worlds of finance, all collide, and it's a really lively and fun event. It's one of our favorites, so please join us in person or online. Visit our website for more information. Finally, I'd like to thank VVC, our AV sponsor, for putting together the event and broadcasting live around the world. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Thanks for being with us. Bye now.